off the island over there. You can join us if you want up. All right, well, good evening, folks. We will, being 6:30 and we have a quorum present, I believe, we will start the meeting of the City of Lowell Community Preservation Committee. First, if we could have a roll call vote to confirm the quorum. Or not a vote, but a roll call.
Sure. Chairman Bakey.
Present.
Vice Chair Bies-Rose.
Present.
Member Shea.
Present.
Member DeJesus.
Present.
Member LeLasher.
Present.
Member Tenzar.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, that confirming a quorum, we can open the meeting. First item of business tonight is the minutes of the November 7th meeting. Do we have any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve? Second. Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, the predominant business this evening, this is the second of 2 nights of hearing from the applicants for this year's funding. What we will be doing this evening is we'll give each applicant, as their item comes up on the agenda, the opportunity to present their project for a few minutes. And then we'll give the members the opportunity to ask questions of the applicants to clarify and better understand the projects that are proposed. The board will not be deliberating or considering the merits of those applications this evening. We're basically collecting information so that we can have an informed deliberation at a public meeting in January. You will be able to attend if you wish to join that meeting. You're able to attend and participate by observing those deliberations. But tonight is the opportunity to speak on behalf of your projects. So the first one we have this evening is an application from the East End Club, or for the East End Club. An application has been submitted by residents at West 4th LLC to construct 2 affordable housing units at 15 West 4th Street. The applicant is seeking $100,000 of CPA funding.
Can I pass these on?
You may.
Yeah, we have some of the plans and elevations for the building that we call Building 2 here tonight that Peter's passing out right now.
If folks could also introduce themselves when they begin speaking, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
So what you have there, as I said, the elevations and the plans for the building that we call Building Number 2. Peter's putting out the signs. We have Building 1 under construction right now. They're 3 separately approved projects. I wanted to thank you for listening to us. My name is Jim Heller, number 54 Parkview Avenue, and I'm the consultant on this. This is Peter Marlowe, and his partner is David Deegan, and they're the 100% owners between the 2 of them of the residents at West 4th LLC. We're extremely enthusiastic about the project. We've been working on this, like all of the other projects, for a long, long time. Building 1 is about 35% completed, and we broke ground on that on about August 8th. I think this is around day 110 of the project. And what I think this project does is make a huge improvement to Centerville. When you come across the Bridge Street Bridge and you'll see the 3 buildings, the building that's already up, this building number 2 that we're here, building number 2 has 10 residential units, of which 2 are deed restricted affordable. Building 1 has a total of 6 deed restricted affordable. And the other project that these gentlemen have done, I think, makes a huge difference in how Centerville looks. They've been investing in Centerville for a long time. Their first project was back in 1979, and they still own it, along with a lot of other projects on Bridge Street, 4th Street, you can go down the list. And it's been a long line of successful projects. One thing is that I think they've kind of led the way on a lot of improvement in Centerville over the years and had a commitment to it for quite a few years. As all of you on the panel are aware, the city made this project possible with the HUD Home Funds loan. It could never have happened without that funding, and we've thanked everyone many times. It made it work, and those things are necessary. We had a pretty good idea before we started this project why there's so little affordable housing under construction, and we want to let you know that we're experts now on why that isn't happening. We've learned a lot. We had a darn good idea to begin with, but we know now. Being a for-profit entity, and this is one thing some people don't understand, there's a lot fewer options for help with funding. An example, last summer, Peter, David, and I were working on a grant for the third building, which is 15 affordable condos on West 4th Street, facing the building we're talking about here tonight. And in that particular one, we're putting a parking garage underneath, condos on top, and we went through that because we needed some help with soft costs. Soft costs on these projects are vastly different than with traditional financing. There's an awful lot to bite off. Of the 10 avenues that the Commonwealth provided for funding, in that particular case, and in Centerville, because it's not an HDIP area, we only had one avenue. So you know it's a little bit of a Hail Mary when you start out for a grant and you realize on page 1 it's a 1 out of 10 shot. So it tells you something right away. But as the grants are a little bit harder to come by, so does the risk increase for the developers. Now, it's all about money, and it's a well-known thing with affordable housing. The traditional financing alone doesn't work. There is no realistic returns for the developers. And we've experienced some cost overruns because this was our initial shot at deed-restricted affordable housing. And we knew there could be a couple of bruises along the way, although it's gone well. And people can say to us, hey, you guys are professional builders. You're supposed to know what you're doing. And they do. But little incidents come along, everything from things like bonding, et cetera. And when you're bonding to not run away from your own project, it can seem a little strange, but those are the things that you run into. But the one thing we did find with the vast majority of the areas where we've run into some cost overruns have a common thread, and it basically comes down to two areas. It relates to the affordable housing requirements that are part of it, and it also, that's the major thing, but also particularly parking. As I think everybody here knows, West 3rd, West 4th, West 5th, crowded areas. I mean, they're areas that have typically been tight for parking. I mean, guys like Peter and I, we're from that part of Lowell. We were walking by there to go to high school, and it was tough parking 50 years ago, and I'm sure it was before that, too. So those are some of the things that have caused our cost to mushroom a little bit, particularly, again, with the parking. On this second building, this is where the majority of the parking for buildings 1 and 2 is. This parking garage underneath, which is 2 levels, has 26 parking spaces in it. Other than Mr. Soucy's project up the street here in Lowell, I can't think of a single project with affordable housing or apartments in general that's got a 2-level parking garage underneath it. There's not too many around. And of course, there were reasons for that. We also, on this building have a great deal of engineering, and that is one of the areas where we've already had some cost overruns on the first building. And we've also got all of the EV charging on this building. And just one of the examples of things you don't always think of with EV charging is we've got a nice parking garage here that's made out of masonry with steel supports supporting a building above it, but we've got a wood structure on top, and there's probably more than a few people in this room that probably wouldn't want to be in a wood frame building where there is and eventually these electric vehicles will get older. There's a nice electric vehicle that's 9 years old with 220,000 miles on it, charging right underneath you while you're trying to get a night's sleep. That's eventually going to cause a few people to lose a little bit of sleep. And it also results in a heck of a lot of cost for insurance. So we've got the facts on the engineering from the first building, and sometimes they're a little bit frightening. I mean, right now on the first building, and generally engineering costs are one of the easiest items to estimate. Talk to the engineers, you hold them to their contracts, and you do the job. By the time we're done with this, we'll be a good $25,000 over our budget just for engineering. A lot of it had to do with things like fire department access. It's crucial. It's expensive. Stormwater runoff. We had some redesigns that raises costs. One of the things that we spending a lot of money on inspections as we fill the foundation. Now, this is a slab building. None of the interior walls on the first floor have any load-bearing capacity, and we've got 4,000-pound mixed concrete for floors, but what we're doing is having every 2 feet of fill underneath inspected to make sure it's going to hold it. Apparently, the people that are members there are rather heavy because just 4,000-pound concrete might not be holding them. Those things raise the cost. And remember, this is a relatively simple building. The building we're here about has some real complexity to it due to the two-level parking garage. And another area, just to give details on the site work, that has been expensive. And there's a few practical reasons. And one of them is what you run into in an old city, in an old neighborhood. And I did a little bit of research, and those streets over there were developed in the 1830s. In those days, you wanted stormwater to run off the site. I get the idea that you wanted it to run off the site to clean the streets, and that was probably how they were cleaned in those days. Today, we're trying to reverse things like that, so we're trying to fix things that were the standards, of the 18 and 1900s. It gets a little bit expensive. One of the things we ran into is when we were digging down for the first building, you're digging out the fill that was right under the parking lot, dig down a little further, and you get 2.5 feet of loam, right? That's not supposed to be under the gravel. That's supposed to be on top. All that has to come out. That caused excavation costs, site work costs, whatever you want to talk about, to really mushroom. You're taking that material off site. We're digging up, and seriously, we're digging up foundations and rubble from foundations, and you take a look at them. There's no masonry, there's no cement on the foundations that we're digging up. Just nice square granite blocks that all have to go off the site. These things definitely run up costs, and plus the parking, some of the parking standards have been a little bit loosened up. We didn't have that benefit. This project got approved some time ago. So there's been a lot of concentration of those costs in that area. Steel costs are going up, and there's got to be a lot of steel in that parking garage to support those 10 apartments up above. I mean, what I'm saying is we need help. And I just want to tell you why I think this project is a good investment for your money. And I think these things are important. It's supposed to be an investment. I mean, we're delivering affordable housing at just over 50% of what most of the nonprofits are delivering at. Now, we realize they've got low-income housing tax credits involved, but we're delivering these at just a hair over $300 a square foot for the units. Most of those units are running up, I've done the calculations, it's not that hard. They're running up around $560 a square foot. Mr. Tenzai, you raised that in the eligibility hearing when you thought there was a math error. When I looked at my sheets originally, I thought I had a math error too, and unfortunately I didn't. Some other things. We hire local help. We use local suppliers, and the money stays here. I think those home funds are supposed to work that way. I mean, we're a known quantity. If you can, in the next few days, please take a ride down West 3rd Street and see the building that Peter and David did down at 27 West 3rd Street that's got 21 units in it, and the one that's under construction on West 5th. The project isn't speculative. It's underway. This is approved. We've got financing. We're making progress. It's happening. And as I mentioned earlier, Centerville isn't in the HDIP zone. That really restricts some of our funding that we could have gone for originally. We're just not there. It's on the other side of the river. And what we're looking for benefits not just us, it benefits the whole neighborhood. I mean, there's no question about it. It's a big benefit to the city. And the other thing is, to conclude, this being the first venture into it, we learned one thing pretty quickly. Making things into affordable housing is more expensive, as I said earlier, than traditional financing. It's very unfortunate that it works that way, and we know the whole project, though, doesn't happen without the affordable element. If we didn't have the affordable housing element built in, though, we'd have significantly lower costs for the exact same level of quality. So we need your help here, and we hope we earn it. I'd love to take questions. The hard ones you can direct to Peter. I handle the numbers. He handles the construction.
All right. Thank you for that. Do any of the members have questions for the applicant? No, Member Tenzo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. One, I would commend Mr. Marlowe for what he has done for Centerville. You see it's been transformed over the years. I've noticed it over the last 20, 25 years, which is nice to see, and somebody giving back to, by their efforts, giving back to the community. I did notice that you were at about $300,000 a unit, which is significantly cheaper than some of the other projects. I guess one of my questions would be are these for rent or are these condos? What are we doing with these things?
Building 1, building 2 is for rent. It's totally rental.
Okay.
Building 3, which is, we haven't started our financing yet. Building 3 is across the street in the big parking lot of the East End Club. And that's going to be condominiums.
All affordable.
So,
All 15 are affordable.
All 15 affordable. That was, when we first met with the manager, what would you like to see over there? He says, I don't want to see just rentals. He said, I'd like to see home ownership. That changes the community and an area. So we agreed to it. So this is the building. This is almost exactly what it's going to be with an underground parking garage and then 3 stories on top of it.
but what we're dealing with right now is not building 3.
2.
We're building 2.
Now we're building number 1.
Yep.
Which is this one here. Number 1's under construction.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2 is the one we're in front of you for. This one here.
Okay. All right. 2 of the units were going to be 60% of AMI. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
All right. And what is AMI? What's 60% of AMI?
Oh,
I guess?
sorry. Geez, you would have to ask me one math question off the top of my head. Thank you. Well, first of all, AMI is area median income. Unfortunately, it's somewhere, I believe, for a family of 2, 60% is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 62,000 Giovanni, you probably know that number right off the top of your head, and you could bail me out.
She's calculating.
Sorry. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm the guy that should know. But that's where we're at. In Building 1, and again, what it is this building has the parking for Building 1. That has 5 two-bedroom units at 60% AMI, and then the ADA accessible unit has to be at 50% of area median income. So this is going to have the parking for all of the affordable housing units.
Yeah, it's actually refreshing to see parking. I'm on a planning board now, and I come across things that you don't need parking for. And it amazes me every time I see it, because I think sooner or later we're gonna have some issues. But
Apparently drones are going to be more prevalent than you think.
I thank you for your time and the presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Any other members have questions?
Mr. Chair, thank you. First of all, I thank you very much for your presentation. This, to me, is a wonderful project. I know that area well, being a member of the club for 60 years or so. But also, I want the record to indicate that Mr. Marlowe, it's nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in a while. Is a person that has been involved with the community, particularly the area of Centerville, for years, going back 40 years, and it's so nice to see you continue to invest in the city of Lowell, and I just assume all your funding's all lined up. And
We have commitment letters done. We have them.
Say that again, please.
We have commitment letters. We've closed.
Yes.
We've closed on our financing.
I don't think you.
Thank God for, on
Right.
both buildings.
Not on the condominiums, that we haven't done that.
Just on item 1 and 2.
Yes.
Right, so, yeah, you couldn't build, for $2 million, you couldn't build what you're going to do in number 3. But anyhow, I just want to indicate that I want to recognize you for continuing your effort to stay in Lowell, invest in Lowell. I know you're doing other projects, and that project you did, one street over, turned out to be terrific, 3 or 4 years ago. So I just want to indicate for the record, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great project. Thank you.
Member Lasher?
I want to thank you both for the presentation, and just had one quick question just to kind of understand process-wise. What was the reasoning for adding affordable housing, and what was the computation that led you to 2 being kind of the right number with this project?
He's talking about right? Well, it was all part of sitting down with the city manager and
Okay.
what they want.
Good.
So in order to get some of that funding, this is what was required out of Building 1, this was what was required out of Building 2. Building 3 will be financed a whole different way because it's home ownership. That'll go to,
Commonwealth Builder Mass House.
yeah,
Yep.
a different program.
Okay.
But affordable housing, the projects just don't work without an affordable housing element, because without that, no home funds, right? No home funds.
Excuse me. Because this is actually on TV, we do need you to talk into the microphone. So
apologize.
folks at home can hear.
Oh, yeah. Took a while to become a TV star here, huh? No, what it is to get the home funds,
Yep.
and that was suggested by the manager, and it works out well, you've got to have an affordable housing element in there, and it's got to be significant. And basically, they prescribed, Mr. Ferreira did, it was a big help, of how to break down the home funds between the 2 buildings. And it's working out extremely well. It basically loads a little bit more interest expense into the second building, but it gives us a little bit of a chance also to have some cash flow to help us from the first building with the second building. It works out great, but it's all tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to check that you're working in conjunction with the administration and the city staff. That's kind of how you led to this, so that's good to hear.
Hand in hand from day one, from idea stage on. there's no point without it. Yeah.
Any other member questions? I just have a quick clarification question from your application. I'm curious, it says that you're reusing the existing East End Club building, and the renderings don't suggest that, so I'm curious.
We are. What we're doing, it's the only part of the whole design of construction that was my idea. They don't let me near a nail gun because they're smart. What it is I was with the engineer who came to do the environmental study, which is pretty detailed. I was taking a look at it, and I said, this thing is absolutely perfect to use as a parking garage. The foundation was, and the whole building was built in the 70s. It's built as a commercial structure. And I said, why tear this apart? This qualifies it for reuse. This is darn expensive to get rid of. And we've got something that can probably be 90% reused. And then that was again, my only creativity on the whole thing. And Peter came up with the second level. And what's great, if you take a look at it, is we've got the entrance for the lower level, what is existing now from the street. The entrance on the second level is from the rear, but because of the grade of the lot, we're not wasting the space for a ramp inside the building. That would wipe out about 8 parking spaces and add to the expense. That was Peter's genius. Mine was I knew you could cut a hole through the concrete.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for reducing the embodied carbon impacts of your project at the same time.
It all helps.
Well, thank you very much. And,
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
All right, our next applicant this evening is Suffolk Place. An application has been submitted by Suffolk Place LLC to construct 33 affordable home ownership housing units at 408 Suffolk Street. The applicant is seeking $300,000 of CPA funding.
Sorry about the frog in my throat. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to make a presentation. My name's Steve Jonkus. I'm here representing the developers as a real estate consultant. The developers are Will Susi and Don Garcia. Just a quick update on Acre Crossing. That mixed-use development that includes a 30,000 square foot office building for JDCU and 170 parking spaces. The Acre Crossing residences with 32 units, 30 of which are sold, two are under agreement. And the remarkable thing is that working with Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, even though the units were all priced at 100% of AMI, 55% of the households have incomes below 80%, including 10 that are at or below 60%. A pretty remarkable achievement and really speaks to, I think, the ability of Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership to manage affirmative fair housing marketing plans, but also to educate home buyers through their first-time home buyer program about what home ownership is all about and how how their ownership can be financed. They did a remarkable job working with state and local organizations, and the city support made a big difference. I think you'll recall that Acre Crossing received something like $776,000 that was used toward construction. With Suffolk Place, we originally applied for $850,000, and thank you very much for the $200,000 award that was made. This time we're applying for $300,000, in part in recognition of the fact that our understanding is that CPA does not have the same level of funding that it's had in previous rounds. Suffolk Place will consist of 32 units. 33, I'm sorry, and a number of those will be one bedroom and others will be two. They'll be priced from $198,000 to approximately $326 for the twos. So we're serving a population that is at 100, 90, and 80% of AMI. I think you know the block that is there now. It's definitely our project is definitely a continuation of the revitalization of that Cabot, Market, Merrimack, and Suffolk Street block. Thankfully, Acre Crossing the city was able to use that project to leverage $1.7 million in MassWorks funding to make public improvements along the sidewalks that abut the project. And Suffolk Place will be used to apply for state funding by the city to continue those improvements to address the needs for the entire block. There's also 6,000 square feet of commercial space, and we're hoping for success with that. We think we had success with the Acre Crossing commercial space. There are some administrative and sales offices being leased by the former Owl Stamp. And Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership actually took 4,000 square feet in a lease in order to conduct their classrooms and education programs and house their administrative staff. In terms of our status, we have a commitment from Commonwealth Builder Mass Housing for approximately $9 million in subsidy to achieve the affordable prices. Enterprise Bank is working on their commitment letter. It's been approved by committee. We expect to get that this week. And to avoid winter conditions, we're looking at breaking ground sometime in March, where you may see, if the winter weather isn't as terrible as we see in the past, they may start demolition and site work. So we think that, in summary, the project just continues to complement the city's goals on home ownership. We think the project will, like Acre Crossing, make a significant difference in the Acre neighborhood, especially in that corridor. In a way, we're really excited about the UMass Lowell and City Link program because hopefully there's some synergy between that effort and what we're trying to do on the housing front. Lastly, it's pretty consistent with what the city and Mass Development have worked on in terms of a transformative development initiative addressing neighborhood needs and for economic growth and for additional housing opportunities. So again, thank you for your previous award, and thank you very much for considering this request. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have questions from the board members this evening? Member Lowell?
Thank you for the presentation and explanation. My initial question would just be, what is the build-out timeline? I know you had the construction start you had given to us, but what's the intended timeline?
Yeah, so the timeline is a 12 to 14-month construction period. We think the absorption of the units on Acre Crossing took us about 8 months, and our marketing study tells us the same for Suffolk Place. So we'll be into 2026 before it's completed.
Any other board members with questions? Oh, Member Tenzar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just confirming, Mr. Jonkis, thank you for the presentation. These are going to be 33 income restricted units.
That's right.
And they're going to be for ownership.
That's correct.
Pretty cool. They're also going to have deed restrictions, I assume?
They do.
Okay.
One of our requests will be that the CPA funds mirror mass housing's deed restrictions. The deed restrictions last for a total of 30 years. For the first 15 years, the buyer is restricted on a sales price that is that meets the income requirements of mass housing. And after that, for the next 15 years, those requirements are lifted. But there is a revenue sharing with mass housing.
Okay. You mentioned, did you mention that some of these units are already been sold? Or was that the other project?
That's the other project.
Okay, all right, I was going to say, you guys
If the other
are
project-
ahead of your,
If the other units weren't sold in the other project, this project wouldn't be happening.
all right, okay. That's great. It's great to see. What do you think the average cost will be for units? I see a lot of the units are one bedroom.
Yeah, so a number of the units are priced at 198. Others are priced at 226, if my memory is correct. And the three two-bedroom units are at 100% of AMI, which makes them equivalent to the price at Acre Crossing, 326.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, that is truly affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Day?
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for those comments. I only have a question on the Commonwealth Builders Program. Did you indicate you're getting $9 million? Mm-hmm. Was that the total grant? Did they just change the law indicating you get all that money up front, or you get it in quarterly?
The program has changed.
I thought it's all money
there's
up front
really-
to save you on cost. Is it?
There's really two components to the funding. One is related to subsidizing the units themselves with an amount that is equivalent to $250,000 a
Right.
unit. And the other is an additional amount of money that comes for site preparation. So whatever assistance, the assistance goes to helping us with the demolition and site remediation, meaning grading, refilling the basement areas, compaction of the site, all of that. So that's how we get to about the $9 million. And the other part of your question, the answer is that the money does come in, I'm going to say pari passu with the construction loan. It reduces the borrowing costs
Yes, right.
significantly. One of the challenges that we had at Acre Crossing was the increase in interest rates going to 8.5% really affected our budget in terms of overall costs for interest payments to the bank. So I think, I think that we're really thankful that Mass Housing has understood that given today's environment where rates are where they are, even though there's been some decrease, they're still pretty unstable, that they've agreed to provide the funding during the course of construction.
Well, I'm sure you agree, Steve, it's an aggressive action by the Commonwealth, which in the long run really does will save you some money up front. But
I think it says a lot about the administration and the legislature's commitment to affordable
I think they've done
homeownership.
wonders for you. Okay, thank you very much, and good luck with the project.
Thank you, Senator.
They used to give the money quarterly, every 3 months.
I have one quick question for you. Just for clarification, the notes we have from the staff indicate that your request for 300,000 is you're specifically asking that it be dispersed in one grant and not spread over multiple fiscal years? Is
Yes.
that, I understand that's the preference.
That's the preference.
Is there a scenario, especially given the dates that you provided earlier, where you're not going to be, you're not expecting to be fully bought out until into 26? Is it possible that if funding were spread over 2 years, that would be still helpful to the project?
So would the funding be available after July of 2025? 2025? Where am I? Yeah. July of 2025, or
26.
is that the year that you're talking about?
Yeah, it would be partially, this is fiscal '25, which ends at the end of June.
Yeah.
And then
So
fiscal
I-
'26
so
would
my-
be the
my-
second potential
So I
year.
guess what I'm saying is that for this round, funding would be available before June 30th, or is it next
Well,
year?
it's subject to once a recommendation is made by this committee, it's subject to
Subject to the
the
council.
timing of the city council.
Yep.
But we will make sure to make our recommendations to give them sufficient time to make funds available before the end of this fiscal year.
You know, of course, I understand the pressure that there is on the funding that's available. There are a lot of projects that face some of the same challenges that we do, and to the extent that funding would be available in a timely fashion to address our construction needs, I think that would work out fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay,
I think
thanks
we're-
very
We're
much.
good, thank you. Our next application this evening is from Wanalancet Mills. Do we have anybody here representing Wanalancet Mills?
Mr. Chairman, is it acceptable if I present over Zoom?
The disembodied voice.
Hi, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
yes, all right. Well, I need to finish introducing the item, but yes, absolutely. An application has been submitted by Farley White Management Company to restore the 210-foot smokestack on the Wanalancet Mill Building at 650 Suffolk Street. They are seeking $96,500 for this project. So, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your project.
Thank you so much. My name is Liz Ivanov. I am the property manager at the Wanalancet Mills for Farley White Interests, the owner and operator of 650, 672, 660 Suffolk Street and 175 Cabot Street. Please forgive me for not being in person. I assumed it was acceptable to join over Zoom as I'm horribly ill after spending time with my nieces and nephews over Thanksgiving. So I've missed the first part of this week downtown.
Well, we're sorry about that, but we're very grateful that you didn't bring it to share.
That's my thought. Christmas coming up. I didn't want to get anybody this sick, but not good. Yes, so I manage the Wanalancet Mills downtown. Excuse me, not quite downtown, but and we are seeking some assistance from the CPA to repoint several portions of the smokestack. The smokestack, most Lowellians are familiar with it because we light it up like a Christmas tree annually. And it is pretty beloved for that reason. I saw a nice little Facebook video after we lit the tree in coordination with the City of Lights this year, that the caption was, "You know you're home when you see the Christmas tree in Lowell." That warm, fuzzy feelings were shortly followed by panic, and I received probably 35 emails between Monday and Tuesday because the tree did not remain lit on Sunday and Monday. What happened was the automatic scheduler, we had not ticked the final checkbox we needed to say, yep, start the schedule. So I've heard 911 was called. We've heard all sorts of crazy things. So it was really nice to know that people appreciate the smokestack and what we do with it. So a little bit about the repointing project. There's portions if you added them all up, the area that is in need of repointing is 15 feet by 105 feet or so. And just to put that into perspective, this smokestack is 210 feet tall. So it was last fully repointed in 1999, and just due to natural exposure to the elements over that period of time, there's areas of mortar that are worn away, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with repointing with so many bricks in Lowell, but it just involves removing the brick and the deteriorated mortar and redoing the joints with new mortar, and then the mason replaces the brick. So we do strategic repointing throughout the building, throughout the year. It's part of our operating budget. But what makes repointing this area of the smokestack unique is that it is too high for your standard mason to be able to take care of it. So instead, we need to hire a vendor generally called a steeplejack, which is a contractor that specializes in the restoration repair of tall structures, generally using climbing equipment. So I included quite a few pictures in my application of the areas that are missing mortar. Last year, we actually employ the steeplejack to set up the stars and hang the strands, and that involves scaling the exterior of the smokestack annually. So last year they brought it to our attention that there are some areas of mortar missing. So after that, we did a full inspection, identifying all the areas that need repair. So we then asked the steeplejack that hangs the lights and star if they could provide us with a price to make these repairs. What the scope would involve is them rigging the chimney. So they would, right now there's a safety cable that's anchored into the chimney that goes to the top. And when the steeplejack scales the exterior, they build a ladder as they go. So they would do that just the same and rig a cable around the exterior for 4 man cages, also called bozeman chairs. And their mason would be able to make those repairs on those from those chairs. The steeplejack that we use, the company is called YSC Inc., but they're also known as Yankee Steeplejack. And they've been in the business providing these restoration services for smokestack steeples and other historically sensitive structures for over 20 years. They've been our partner in working with our particular smokestack for about 15 years. So they're really familiar with the building, and this is their bread and butter. So the total job cost is $96,500. The work would take about 3 to 4 weeks to complete, including the setup, the repointing, and then the removal of the staging. And they could begin in the springtime at the earliest, spring 2025 at the very earliest, just because they don't want it to be too cold while they're doing that work. So our request would be for a one-time funding of the job cost. After the job is complete, they wouldn't require anything upfront. So this is we're applying for this funding under the historical preservation category. Wanalancet is, and therefore the smokestack is listed on both the national and state registers of historic places. So it's part of the Lowell National Historical Park and Preservation District. It's also in the Locks and Canals Historic District, as well as the Downtown Lowell Historic District. These smokestacks, in Steve Stowell's words, are called urban redwoods, and they're an endangered historical species. They take a lot to maintain. And year after year, we do maintain it, and we use it, and we draw attention to it. So it's always important to make sure that brick facades are well maintained for safety reasons. But it's extra important due to the way we use the smokestack, because as I mentioned, that safety cable that the steeplejack clips into as they climb, that's anchored into the brick. There's somebody that actually needs to scale the exterior of this thing, in addition to just wanting to keep the facade in good shape. So just for safety reasons. So the community impact of this is just making sure that we're preserving this historical landmark for downtown Lowell. That's important in its own right. But also that we could still continue to light the tree and coordinate with the City of Lights year after year. People obviously really appreciate it, and we absolutely cannot continue doing that if we don't complete these repairs. So thank you so much for having me this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions from any of the members? Member Lasher.
Once again, thank you for the presentation and explanation of what you're looking to do with the project. My one question would be similar to what the chairman had mentioned in a previous applicant. Is there flexibility in this application? You're looking for 100% funding for the project. Is there an opportunity where if there were a percentage of funding that were put towards this project, that would still be something that could be completed throughout the way you're currently structuring it?
No, it would not. It is outside of so far outside of our operating budget. So Wanalancet, the parts that we own are mixed office and flex use, and it's no surprise we're struggling as well with leasing. Hoping that will change as the Link project brings more activity downtown, but it is quite difficult to make this caliber of large expenditure for building maintenance. So I'm not sure if it's something that we would move on in the next couple of years. We may have to wait.
I guess as a follow-up, is this something that is deemed eminent as far as the structural deficiency, or is it something that over the course of multiple funding cycles might be available to make this happen?
Yes. It is not an emergency. It is just something that would be good to take care of. The sooner the better.
I have I would appreciate if you could share a little bit of additional information for us. The application indicates that you're looking for 100% of the funding for this particular scope of work. But if you could speak to what you invest annually in maintaining the smokestack to sort of the annual routine work that you described, as well as what you spend to erect the lighting every year.
Absolutely. So a big portion of this work and why it's advantageous to do it all at once is it is very expensive for them to just climb the smokestack. So to put it into perspective, twice a year we pay Yankee Steeplejack $7,000 to climb the stack and bring up the strand and stars, and that's 2 days worth of work for them. So that's $14,000 a year in just the steeplejack costs alone. And if I had to include the labor and the materials, we actually screw in the bulbs by hand because they would be crushed under the weight of the cables when stored. So altogether, I would say between $30,000 to $40,000 is what we spend annually to put the tree up alone. The repointing work that we have been able to do around the base of the star, I would say that's on the order of between $6,000 and $7,000, and that's not something we have to do annually. That's just the most recent expenditure we've made in 2021. And that was just what we could reach with a lift.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next applicant this evening is 484 Merrimack Street. An application has been submitted by New Royal LLC to restore the historic building at 484 Merrimack Street. The applicant is seeking $350,000 of CPA funding.
LTC, could we project the, oh wait. I'm gonna have to restart this because it's going crazy. Sorry, one moment. Technical issue. That's weird. Did you see what was happening? That's so weird. Wait one second. Okay. Sorry if I'm like dumb and don't see it. Perfect. Okay, let's hope that it doesn't do that again. Okay, ta-da. No problem.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Patrick Ty, and I, along with my brother Martin, we're developing 484 Merrimack Street. The project will bring 17 units of housing along with commercial space for a very special market at the ground level to downtown Lowell. Our goal is to refurbish the existing building and to bring it back to its original state. We are currently under construction. We have a loan from Enterprise Bank, and we are short on funds to complete the project in the manner in which we would like to complete the project. And I come to you tonight to request the CPA funds. The money will go towards the preservation and the construction, or I should say the reconstruction, of this historic building. So the site is 484 Merrimack Street. It's a couple buildings away from where we are tonight. It's located in the TDI district in the vibrant Acre neighborhood. It's a 4-story infill building, originally built as a rooming house in 1912. A theater was added to the site around the same time, the Royal Theater. The building has been vacant for years, deemed condemned by the city, and we purchased this building a couple years ago. This slide shows the back of the building, and you can see where the Royal Theater occupied the site. The walls, or some of the walls, the foundation walls of the theater still exist. The theater was once one of Lowell's grand theaters. It's our hope to preserve and incorporate some of these artifacts into a beautiful garden that pays homage to the Royal Theater that once stood in its place. The building's listed on the Lowell National Historical Park and Preservation District Cultural Resources Inventory. The property is listed on the National and State Registers of Historic Places through its inclusion in the Lowell National Historical Park and Preservation District, and is within the boundaries of the Downtown Lowell Historic District. We're working closely with Stephen Stowell and the Lowell Historic Board to rehabilitate the building in a way that is in line with the city's goals for Merrimack Street and for the downtown area. So there are many characteristics worth preserving in this building. The front of the building is a glazed tan brick, which is quite beautiful. The building has these 3-story aerial or bay windows that are wrapped in metal. And then underneath the many iterations that you see at the ground level will be a beautiful storefront brought back to life. And this just shows the current state of the condemned building. That's all we thought about, going to the Royal. Now that we're grown, we read books. So Jack Kerouac wrote Dr. Saxon a semi-autobiographical account of his growing up in Lowell, and he describes being in the theater. He said, "We waited impatiently for the 1:15 movie, sometimes arrived at 12:30, and waited all that time looking at cherubs in the ceiling, round Moorish Royal Theater pink and gilt and crystal crazy ceiling with a Sistine Madonna around the dull knob where a chandelier should be. Long waits in rickety, nervous, snapping bubblegum, seats, scuff, scattle, tatter, shut up of usher, who was also missing a hand with a hook from World War I, a veteran my father knew him well. We were waiting for Tim McCoy to jump on the screen, or Hoot Gibson, or Tom Mix." So those are some words of Jack Kerouac recounting his days at the Royal Theater. And this is the back of the site where the theater once stood. And you can see the massive granite foundation and the brick walls of the first floor of the theater that still remain. And part of what we want to do is bring back a garden that would, in some way, pay tribute to the theater and the history that it once had. So this drawing, the yellow is the building, and then the back will be a garden, a semi-subterranean garden, sunken garden, built within the confines or the footprint of the Royal Theater. These drawings show the building and how we will renovate the building as per the original design. To the left is an extension that we're adding to accommodate the housing that we need. There are 5 apartments on each level, 1-bedroom apartments. The ground level is over 3,500 square feet and will be the new home of Sophia's Greek Pantry. Sophia's is on the adjacent site. They've been looking for a larger space to expand their business, and we're happy to say that they'll be moving into our building. So we're glad that we can keep them in the acre and keep them in the city of Lowell, because it's a fantastic market. These images just show some of the characteristics of the interior. So it's our hope, or it's our goal, that the ground level market will have the high ceilings and exposed brick and all of the characteristics that we'd like to keep with the existing building. These renders show the storefront in its original state. Sophia's Greek Pantry the market will live on one side, and they're expanding to have a cafe on the other side, so they'll occupy all of the ground level. And we're working closely with Valerie over at Sophia's Greek to design, I'm an architect, to design her a custom market, and we're all excited about that. So these images show the current state of the project. Well, actually not the current state, but just to give you a little history, on the far left, when we started, essentially the building just fell in, and we had to brace the existing structure. You can see those 4-story braces, and now we're putting back the floors in its place. So the building is secure. At one point, we thought we might even lose it. but we were diligent in getting it to a safe space, and now we're at a good point where we can reconstruct and feel good about it. So to conclude, our goal is to restore this very special building. The building is a rich part of the history of downtown Lowell. The adaptive reuse project will bring new housing to the city. The building will give Sophia's Creek a place to expand their thriving business and allow the shop to stay in the acre and allow them to stay in Lowell. The garden will pay homage to the theater that once occupied the site. And when the Kerouac fans come to visit, they can stand in the sunken garden surrounded by the massive granite walls of the Royal Theater and imagine what it was once like. We want to get this project right and build it out in a way that we will be proud and that the city can also be proud. The CPA funds will help us to achieve these goals, and we would be grateful for any assistance. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from any of the members?
It's my turn.
Member Tenzar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess a couple of questions. One, you mentioned that these are going to be rental units. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Are these going to be rental units?
Correct.
Okay. Are they going to be market rate or affordable housing?
Market rate.
If you mentioned you would be happy if you got any sort of assistance. We have a very limited amount of resources this year, and so would you be amenable to potentially getting a percentage of what you've requested?
Sure. We'll get whatever you give us. Our goals are lofty. The building's an important building. Like I said, we want to do it right. We don't have the funds to do the things we really want to do to make it the way it should be. So we would like to get all of it. But I understand.
Thank you.
Member Lelash?
Coming ping and pong, Danny. My question would be, piggybacking on Member Tanzar's question, project timeline, ideal, and what you think the timeline would look like.
Well, as I noted, we have started construction, and our goal is to finish it by the end of 2025.
By the end of 25. Okay. All right.
Member Shea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first, did you indicate your name was Patrick?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's nice to meet you. I did read over your application, and I'm looking around the room. I think I'm the only person that went to the Royal Theater as a boy. And I was telling Matt that I think I paid 12 cents to get in, and a guy lives just up the street. And I can only tell you that, but on the board, the chairman indicated, I think it's 4 years now. And I read I went through this and I read it because once a friend of mine said, "That's the Royal Theater." I said, "What?" It really brings back memories, but I went through your, including your profit and loss, and I think you have your units. I think you have them undervalued. I think you're going to do better than that, particularly in the winter. But I was so impressed with your presentation. I had to sit over there. Matt thought it was because of the mic. No, because when you get to be my age, you start to lose your hearing a little bit. But your presentation is great. But to see the community support you like you have a lot of distinguished people here writing letters of support. I've never seen anything like it, Mr. Chairman, in my 4 years. Such a diverse group coming together to rebuild this beautiful building. And I don't know, and I saw your finances with Enterprise and everything. I see the substantial investment you're putting in there. And I think you're going to do a little better for rent than you expect. I don't think you're going to have any vacancies because of supply and demand factor. But and I'm glad that Danny brought out the fact. I don't know. We have to talk to the assistant manager and the chairman to find out how much funding we have, because it's just some years we have a lot, and other years the chairman will tell you that, but they do the best they can to try to accommodate and you've already been working on this over a year. I mean, and you get some distinguished people, Enterprise Bank, you're putting up substantial capital yourself for investment. It's really impressive, and so that's the record I just want to go on there. I want to wish you the best of luck, and hopefully after the first of the year, we'll find out what the chairman and the assistant manager wants to do with some of the funding, because like Danny said, that some years there's funding, other years there isn't. But take a page out of Steve Jonkis's book. He got some money last year. He's coming back this year, and so you guys will probably be back next year also. But I just thought it was tremendous, and I really did take time out to read everything. And I said, man, I just got educated. But anyhow, Patrick, best of luck to you, and congratulations on next door, incidentally, was Meliaris's and a Royal Tea Room. I washed dishes in there for 50 cents an hour when I was 14. So great, it's great to see you. And I did say I said to the mayor the other day, geez, I said, Ty, didn't they play football for Lowell High? And he said, oh, 5 did. I didn't know there was that many. But anyhow, congratulations and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Shea. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to make sure the comment memo that we got from staff did mention that there was some reference to potential interior work, and just want to make sure that there's clarity that the historic funds can only be for the exterior, and also that the accepting the historic preservation funds from CPA does add a historical restriction, I guess, to the whole building, which being a building of historic significance, I'm sure that this isn't a added complication because it kind of already is there, but just wanting to make sure that there is clarity that that the $350,000 that is being requested is definitely all able to go towards exterior. Based on some of the pictures of the existing conditions, I'm guessing you won't have a hard time finding $350,000 worth of work to do on the outside of that building. And then also just confirming that, you're aware that our funds do in fact come with its own affordability, historic preservation restriction.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Our next and final application this evening is for 32 Bridge Street. An application has been submitted by the E. Gibson Trust, Tanya Perrin, and Nicholas C. Saris for repairs to the historic building at 32 Bridge Street. The applicant is seeking $100,000 for the project. We don't have anybody in the room. Do we have anybody? Oh, we do. Okay. We thought you were just sticking around because this was the best place to be tonight.
But it's always fascinating to stick around for CPC committee meetings. Especially, the senator should really think about writing his memoirs about his growing up in the acre, because his recall of everything that took place there and of all the family names is really pretty impressive. So I think you really should consider writing a little bit of a memoir to talk about what it was like to grow up in the acre. At 12 cents for a show, that was pretty good. So the owner has asked me to attend and speak on behalf of their application. My name again is Steve Jonkis. I just jotted down some notes about the questions that were raised by DPD staff. Of course, as we described in our eligibility application, the building is historically significant. It's one of 4 remaining row houses. It once housed workers from Mass Mills, is my understanding. And the owner, one of the questions that was asked was, when did the owner purchase the building? That was in 1986, and the historic renovation work and conversion to residential space took place in 1987 and might have spilled over into 1988. So that was 36 years ago. If I remember correctly, Danis had a market in that building at once upon a time on 32 Market Street, or on Bridge Street, rather. Anyway, the applicant has stated that the CPA funds are used to address deferred maintenance at the building in his application. That was an unfortunate term to use. It's a mistaken characterization that should have been described more accurately. So the more accurate explanation is that it's to undertake repairs to those portions of the exterior that are in need of replacement. And the major budget item, as you can see from the application, is the replacement of the windows at some $346,000. But over the years, in terms of maintenance, the owner has addressed a number of items, including painting the exterior, repairing the roof, repairing or replacing gutters and downspouts, repairing the shutters, making repairs to the chimney and its masonry, repairing the windows and sashes, and investing in interior repairs, of course, including the replacement of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment, and building systems, including new hot water tanks and boilers and appliances as needed. Plus, there's always the cost of renovating a unit upon tenant turnover. They also ask about determining why the applicant has not budgeted for the maintenance of the building and the deferred maintenance. As explained, the owner has budgeted for reserves and replacement, and the investor, over the course of time, has made considerable effort to upgrade the building as needed and to enhance its appearance. And the application should have said that the upgrades are needed because of the age of the items that need to be replaced. They've outlived their useful life. The windows just don't work anymore. And they're seeking the $100,000 due to the expense of the extra expense of adhering to historic preservation standards. The windows are not readily available at Home Depot. They need to be manufactured, and the same is true of the shutters and other elements. So the balance of the construction budget, the $348, is funded with reserves and equity that have been set aside by the owner. And why the $100,000 request? It's to try to make up for the significant, at $447,000, the significant repairs that need to be made without affecting rents. You know, the rent levels in that building at this point are $1,300 to $1,600 a month, and those are significantly below market. There is no other subsidy in the project, and the concern is that raising rent significantly in order to meet market and/or fund reserves would be contrary to their efforts to keep the building fully leased and not see a whole bunch of turnover, if you will. So I'm happy to answer questions. Just in summary, it is a significant building. The owner has made significant investments over the years in preserving it, and the request is, as stated, to help supplement reserves and equity that are available to make the improvements that are necessary to meet historic standards.
thank you. Do we have questions from members? I don't know if I need to look left or right. Member Tenza.
I'll jump in. You mentioned the rental rates being 1,300 to 1,600, and it was noted in here that you're basically having market rate housing. This isn't. This is well below market rate, and it's actually, I mean, compared to everything I've heard out there, it's very affordable. So commend whoever the owners are on that. I also appreciate the fact that you're going to be putting $500,000 into the project for repairs, and you're only asking for 20%. That's appreciated. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Member Baez-Rose?
So I know that this is a historic preservation request, but how many units are in the building right now? How many units are going to be positively impacted theoretically by this renovation?
There are 25 units in the building. And it's fully occupied at this point.
Member LaLasher?
I couldn't let the last one go without at least one question. My one question would be, is there a possibility or is there any way to phase this project that would allow flexibility? Or is this something that obviously at one point, having it all done at once would be more cost effective?
I think I've heard that question before. Well, the term of the construction would take 6 to 8 months, depending upon how long it takes. For example, the major question is how long will it take for the manufacturer to produce the windows? They do have some in their shop at this point, but they do not have all of them. So, if we look at a 6-month period, tell me how that works with your funding cycles. And if it fits into your funding cycles, then, certainly the money could be spread over 2 years or whatever you think is appropriate.
Then I guess my follow-up would be, are all of the windows the same or are any of them different? Are there 2 different styles or any other ways to break up the project?
Well, I'm going to say that the windows must be different because I think what he's replacing are the windows at the bay windows up on the top at this point. And certainly, there are other windows to be manufactured, so I'm guessing those are not the same as the ones that he has in place.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it, and have a good evening.
You too. All right. We have no other agenda items. Do we have any comments from any of the members? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I'll beat Danny. I'll make the motion.
All right. Do we have a second over there?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Motion carries. Thank you all. And thank you,